Today I'm going to show you how to install the Andor Willow wood slat room divider. Now, every install is different, so your process is going to be unique, but the steps are pretty easy to follow for most reasonably skilled do-it-yourselfers. Let's go. Alright, so your Andor Willow wood slats and your fastener kits have arrived and everything looks good. It's time to pull together a few tools you're going to need to make this happen. Now, the first and most critical item, in my opinion, is a laser level. Now, you can do this job without one, of course, but with one, the entire process becomes far easier and more accurate. If you have access to one, you might want to try it. You'll also need a measuring tape, a level, a drill with a Phillips head screwdriver bit, a 13mm wrench, and a pencil. Should you need to trim your slats to fit your ceiling as I do, you'll also need some kind of a saw and a 7/16 drill bit, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now, there are two ways to install these slats, and the method you choose will be determined by the ceiling and floor materials that you're working with and by the level of install difficulty that you're comfortable with. Now, the first and the easier method involves using these small black plates that are included in your installation kit. These are to be used when you're working with non-solid surfaces like drywall, which is what I have. On the plus side, this method requires that you create only very small holes in your ceiling and floor. On the minus side, it will leave a 12 to 15mm gap between the top and bottom of your slats when fully installed. Alright, step one. You've decided where you want your room divider to be. In my case, I want just 8 boards right here to separate a TV area from the rest of a larger living space. Now, as luck would have it, I have a ceiling joist that runs directly above where I want this room divider to be, which means I'm not going to need any drywall anchors when I attach those plates to the ceiling. If you are not so lucky, you're going to need some of those too. Using this ceiling joist as a guide, I'll turn on my laser level and show exactly where I'll be attaching my smaller circular plates. Draw these lines in pencil, following the edge of the laser line. Next, we need to determine how far apart we want your slats to be. There's a slim wooden template included with your purchase that assumes you want the smallest possible gap between boards. Each slat is exactly 120mm wide, and they require 1mm of clearance to successfully rotate 360 degrees once installed. If that's what you want, take this little template and start marking away. For me though, I want a more open look, so I'm creating my own template with 5/8 of an inch between slats. This though is totally up to you. One other thing to keep in mind before we really get going is the height of your ceiling. Now, I bought the smaller slats, which are 7 foot 10 inches, because my little ceiling is only 7'5" 3/4" at its highest point. Poor little guy. Now, if you're using the small plate method of installation like I'll be doing, you do have to remember to take off 1.2 inches off each slat measurement so that that installation hardware in the little plate will fit. We'll get to that in a second, but keep it in mind. First thing I'm going to do is lay out my floor. Since I have to trim my boards anyway, I removed a template from the end of one slat and will use the center of the pre-drilled hole to mark where the small plates will be installed along my guideline. Then, since I want a 5/8 of an inch gap between boards, I cut an exact spacer, 5/8 of an inch, add it to the end of the template, then move the template along my line. Repeat this process until all of your boards have been accounted for. There are lots of ways to do this, so just do what works best for you. From here, you can move your laser level to determine where on the ceiling line the first plate should be attached. Line up the laser with your first floor marking and make a mark where the laser hits your ceiling line. You can do this with a couple standard levels too, but the laser level is fast and accurate. Mark and move the level until all ceiling attachment points are laid out. Next, just install the first pair of plates to make sure they're where you want them. Screw in your small floor plate using the short screws, known as part number 4 in your installation kit, and then use a longer screw for the ceiling plate, using drywall anchors if you need them. Okay, if you need to trim your slats like I do, there's a few things to keep in mind. The first is, obviously, measure each slat carefully and independently, as ceilings and floors are not always parallel, as is the case with me. For my first slat measurement, it was 7'5" But remember, I have to deduct that 1.2 inches to account for the installation hardware and the plate, so my first cut will be 7'4" 3/8". These boards are made with an MDF core, which is great as it doesn't warp or twist ever, like solid wood often does. It also has a hardwood veneer surface. Now, even though it's real hardwood veneer, it can fray when cutting. To avoid this, turn the boards on their side, use a backer board behind it, and tape the back and bottom of your slat. Gorilla Tape produced a really nice clean cut for me. Okay, last and probably trickiest step. The pre-drilled holes on both ends of the slats are only 4 centimeters deep, which is about 1.5 inches. So if you have to cut off more than that, as I do, you'll need to re-drill one end of every slat with your 7/16 drill bit. Mark out the dead center of each slat and drill away. Again, I used a template from a cut pre-drilled section and I clamped it in place before drilling. To complete the slat preparation, attach a spring-loaded pin to one end of each slat, that's part number 1, and a threaded bolt pin, part number 2, to the other end. There's no right way to do this. You can choose which end goes up and which end you prefer down. Now, make sure the threaded bolts are in the shortest position, fully threaded inside the slat, and set it in place. Finally, hold the spring-loaded pin at the top of your slat in its shortest position to allow it to fit inside the sealing plate. Check for level, and if everything looks good, repeat all steps for all boards, and you're done. And there you have it, separation without the sheetrock. I love it. The only thing that's left to do is adjust the screws at the bottom of each slat with your 13mm wrench until the line at the top is whatever you want it to be. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and happy installation.